Hi everyone, Ice again. Today I would like to talk about the best kits for beginners or people who like to get into this hobby. Before you do, you must know that this hobby requires you or expects you to spend on it. It's not a cheap hobby like most Filipinos are used to. When you get into this hobby, you'll be spending a considerable amount of your allowances, your salaries, um, since this is a very fun and wholesome thing to get into. It's really addictive. You'd be surprised when you suddenly find yourself drawn more and more into this hobby and spending more and more of your time building and customizing the kits. I myself didn't really expect to build and collect as much as I am now when I first started out. I remember telling myself that this would be the last kit I would be buying or building for this month, and lo and behold, there comes another one and another one, and yeah, it's just very addictive. Okay, enough of that. Let's get back to the topic at hand, which would be the recommended kits for beginners. Now, I know most Filipinos would probably tell you to start with bootlegs or practice on bootlegs before you buy the Bandai kits or move on to the Bandai kits. I wouldn't really recommend that. You know why? Um, well, first off, trust me when I tell you this. I've tried a couple of bootleg kits myself. That's the reason why I'm able to tell you this. Um, I must tell you that bootleg kits, although they're really cheap, not that cheap. Some of them cost thousands. Um, the quality of the bootlegs are really bad, as in really bad. You would like if you first start off with Bandai kits and then you try the bootleg ones, you would really get pissed off. That's what happened to me. Because one time I was like already building Bandai kits. I started off with Bandai, and then one of my colleagues told me about the bootleg kits out there. I haven't tried that before, so I asked him about what they were, and then what he told me was, well, the only difference with the bootleg kits is that sometimes the parts aren't that easy to fit together, or that the articulation is a bit different from the Bandai ones. But that's all he told me. He didn't really tell me that it's really bad. So I went out. I tried buying a couple, and the first kit that I bought was from Dragon Momoko because that's what my friend told me to buy. He told me that Dragon Momoko kits are practically the best brand of the bootlegs out there. I did. I went out, bought a kit from Dragon Momoko, and sad to say, I was really disappointed. I ended up spending more time fixing the peg holes for the pegs to fit in, and my hands and ended up really hurting a lot whilst building the kit. So um, that's my experience, and I'm just sharing that with you guys so you wouldn't be making the same mistake that I did. That's also the reason why I can tell you straight off the bat that it's really bad. Um, it's not worth the money you'd be spending on it at all. Some of the bootleg kits cost more than 1,000, and yeah, it's just a waste of your money if you ask me. All right. Uh, what you'd be do if you end up buying one is that you'd probably be spending more time tweaking and forcing the parts or the peg holes to fit together rather than the actual building itself. And I know some Filipinos would end up telling you that discard lang yan, and that that's what Filipinos are known for discarte and shit. But that's just a load of bullshit, if you ask me. Discarte, that's their excuse for buying bootlegs. That's their excuse for being cheap. That's what I'm That's my opinion on the matter. Okay. All right. So, yeah. Uh, my recommendation still for beginners, especially for newbies or people who'd like to get into this hobby, is to go out and start with even just the cheaper HG kits from Bandai out there, and yeah, just build one off, and you'll see what I'm trying to tell you. You will enjoy it. You will have loads of fun building it, and none of the problems from the bootleg kits. Nothing beats the enjoyment of not having to worry about the plastic, whether the plastics would break when you press them together, or when you twist this part, that it would suddenly break off, or that the whether or not the parts would fit together, and or it would, snap together properly. It's just loads of fun when all you have to do is just go on and build the kit with ease, and just enjoy the outcome of your efforts without having your hands and fingers hurt from forcing the parts to fit together in the end. All right. Now, as for the type of the kits that you should be starting out with, my recommendation is to start off with easy ones, like for example the high grades, or the first grades, or the non grades. But the most recommended kits would be the high grades. At least it's got quality, and it's easy to build for the beginners, and you wouldn't have to worry about the small separations and parts that you need to, like, pay more close attention to, as compared to the real grades and the master grades, because you might end up getting scared off if you're a beginner, and that wouldn't be a good place to start off with. But for me, any grade is doable. If you think you have the capability of building, or you have the knowledge of building itself, and you want to start with, then this is the start for you for getting into gunpla and everything, then you can go on and start with the real grades, or even the master grades. They're basically not that different from the high grade ones. The only difference is that there's more parts to worry about. There's the inner frame, and it's a bit more complex. But basically, if you know how to follow the instructions written in the manual, you'd be okay. You'd be able to build one. I don't see any problems there. For me personally, I like the real grades and the master grade lines. First off, for the real grade, I like the part separation of the rail grades, coupled with its sick articulation. I mean, you can literally pose it in any pose imaginable, in any way imaginable. They're just so flexible that you can put them in any crazy ass pose that you can think of or come up with. Uh, and the second part would be the part separation. Yeah, it's just off the chart. Looks really good. Mm. As for the master grades, well, they're just a bigger size, rather than, it's a bigger size of a rail grade. You'd be able to finish and display them better. They look better on the shelves. They look more majestic, and yeah, it's a grander kit as compared to the smaller ones. And lastly, they also have better proportions than the smaller ones. As for the part separations, they're basically almost the same, although some real grades would have a better part separation than the master grades, but that's just in some cases. Mostly, it's literally the same, just the size difference and the articulation. For the master grade, you wouldn't have that much articulation because they're basically built for display. Yeah. Lastly, for the perfect grades, I personally haven't tried one because I don't have the shelf space to display them in. They're just too big for my taste. But I am considering of trying one in the future. And well, I love the look of the master grades. They're just sick, but a lot pricier than the master grades. So uh, maybe I'll try one in the future, but I don't see one. I don't see myself building one in the near future as of now. So yeah, that's it for now. I just hope this has been a very informative video for the beginners out there, and I hope you would take what I've told you into consideration, especially with regards to whether or not you should buy the original kits or the bootleg ones. Um, but that's up to you. That's my take on the whole difference and whether or not you should, which kit you should start off with. But this is just a piece of my advice for the beginners out there. I hope this has been informative and you'd be able to get into this hobby. This is a really fun hobby, that's for sure. Uh, Again, this is Ice. Hope to see you next time. Bye bye.